Mira Caldwell never imagined her perfect life would unravel because of Lena Vaughn. What started as a friendship built on trust and loyalty turned into a web of betrayal, deception, and a disappearance that no one saw coming. When Mira discovered her husband Elliot's affair with her best friend, the heartbreak was only the beginning. Lena's shocking pregnancy revelation sent Mira's world spiraling, but just days later, Lena vanished without a trace. As the investigation unfolded, secrets surfaced, revealing that Lena had been playing a dangerous game. But had she gone into hiding, or had someone made sure she would never return? Mira Caldwell had always believed she was one of the lucky ones. From the outside, her life looked perfect. A devoted husband, a beautiful home, and a daughter she adored. She and Elliot had built their lives together over the last decade, overcoming struggles and celebrating successes as a team. People often told her how fortunate she was to have such a loving and hard-working husband, and she had never doubted it, at least not until recently. For the past few months, something had shifted. Elliot had become distant, easily irritated, and more guarded with his phone. He worked late more often, and business trips that had once been occasional became more frequent. When she asked about it, he brushed it off, insisting that work was stressful and he needed to focus. Mira wanted to believe him. After all, marriages had ups and downs. She told herself not to overthink it, but the feeling in her gut refused to go away. Lena Vaughn, her best friend since college, had been her support system through everything. They had met during their freshman year, bonding instantly over shared classes and late-night study sessions. Even after their lives took different paths, their friendship remained intact. Lena had been there for Mira when she had given birth to her daughter, when she had struggled with postpartum anxiety, and during every challenge that came their way. Lena was more than a friend. She was family. She often dropped by unannounced, helped babysit, and joined them for dinner. It was second nature for her to be around, which was why Mira never questioned the closeness between Lena and Elliot. It made sense. They were part of the same circle, and Lena had always been good to both of them. Then came the note. It was a chilly Saturday morning when Mira found it, tucked into the mailbox between a stack of bills and advertisements. A small, unmarked envelope. She frowned, assuming it was junk, but something about its weight made her pause. Peeling it open, she pulled out a single piece of paper, her breath catching as she read the words, "Your husband is lying." That was all. No sender, no explanation. Just 4 words that sent an icy dread curling through her stomach. Mira's hands shook as she reread it. A prank? A cruel joke? Or something more? She forced herself to laugh, trying to shake off the paranoia creeping in. But the moment she stepped back inside her home, something changed. The walls seemed too tight, the air too still. She looked at Elliot differently now, her mind racing with possibilities she hadn't dared to consider before. The doubts she had pushed away came flooding back. The late nights, the guarded phone, the way he had started taking long showers the moment he got home. It wasn't just work stress, was it? Mira tried to convince herself she was overreacting. But that same evening, a conversation with their neighbor shattered that illusion. Jessica, the woman who lived across the street, had always been friendly. They often exchanged casual greetings and small talk about their kids. That night, as Mira retrieved a package from the porch, Jessica called out from her own driveway. "Hope you don't mind me asking," she said hesitantly. "Is Elliot okay? I've been seeing his car over at Lena's place late at night." Mira felt her blood run cold. She forced a smile. "Oh, really? Maybe he's helping her with something." Jessica nodded, but the concerned look on her face remained. "Just seemed odd. I've seen it a few times now. Thought you knew." Mira barely. I managed to get inside before her knees buckled. Her husband, late at night, at Lena's house. The note. The feeling in her gut could no longer be ignored. Something was terribly, terribly wrong. Mira couldn't sleep that night. Every time she closed her eyes, Jessica's words echoed in her head. She tried to push away the thoughts clawing at her mind, but they wouldn't leave. She kept picturing Elliot at Lena's house, late at night, his car parked in her driveway. The idea seemed impossible, but the more she thought about it, the more it made sense. The late nights, the cold distance, the guarded phone. She had ignored the signs for too long. The next morning, Mira woke up with a heaviness in her chest. Elliot acted as if nothing was wrong, kissing her on the forehead before heading to work. She wanted to ask him about Lena, to watch his reaction, but something held her back. Instead, she decided to find the truth on her own. Her first step was searching his car. While he was gone, she went into the garage, her heart pounding. She had never done anything like this before, but desperation pushed her forward. At first, there was nothing. Just old receipts, loose change, and a pair of sunglasses. But then, she checked the glove compartment. Inside, tucked beneath a stack of papers, was a second phone. Mira froze. Her hands trembled as she turned it on. A lock screen appeared, but there was no passcode. The moment it unlocked, a flood of messages filled the screen. Her heart shattered. The messages were from Lena. They were intimate, filled with words Mira wished she had never seen. They spoke of love, of secrets, of stolen moments. And then there were the pictures, selfies of Lena, ones Mira had never seen before. Pictures that no friend would ever send to her best friend's husband. A sickening realization settled over her. This wasn't a fling. It had been going on for months. Mira felt the walls closing in. She dropped the phone onto the passenger seat, gasping for air. Her chest ached, her hands numb. Her best friend, her husband. The two people she trusted most had betrayed her in the worst possible way. She needed answers. Mira grabbed her car keys and drove straight to Lena's house. She didn't bother knocking. She pounded on the door until Lena answered. The moment their eyes met, Mira knew. The guilt on Lena's face was unmistakable. Mira didn't have to say anything. Lena stepped back, her expression shifting into something else, something almost unreadable. Was it regret? Or something closer to triumph? And then, just as Mira opened her mouth to demand the truth, Lena spoke first. "I'm pregnant," she said. The words hit like a hammer to Mira's chest. She staggered, back, the world spinning around her. Pregnant, with Elliot's child. Lena didn't apologize. She didn't try to explain. She simply stood there, watching as Mira struggled to breathe. Mira didn't remember how she got back to her car, how she managed to drive home. The pain was unbearable, but mixed within it was something else, something dark. Rage. She waited for Elliot to come home, the phone still in her hands. When he walked through the door, she tossed it onto the table in front of him. The color drained from his face. He didn't deny it. He didn't try to lie. He simply lowered his head, as if bracing for the impact of what he had done. Mira didn't cry. She didn't scream. The pain inside her had already burned too deep. She felt hollow, like something inside her had died. Then, 2 days later, before Mira could decide what to do next, Lena Vaughn disappeared. Lena Vaughn was gone. Mira learned about her disappearance through a phone call from the police. At first, she thought it was some kind of mistake, a misunderstanding that would soon be cleared up. But as the officer on the other end of the line spoke, Mira realized the situation was far more serious. Lena had missed a doctor's appointment, and when multiple calls to her phone went unanswered, a friend reported her missing. Mira sat in stunned silence as the officer asked if she had spoken to Lena recently. She hesitated before answering. What was she supposed to say? That she had confronted her just 2 days ago? That she had discovered her best friend was pregnant with her husband's child? That she had driven home that day, filled with a rage so consuming she could barely think straight? The officer's next words made her stomach drop. Her car was found abandoned near a hiking trail. No sign of a struggle, but the keys were still inside. Mira's blood ran cold. This was real. Lena was missing, and the last time Mira had seen her, their confrontation had been explosive. She could already imagine how this would look to the police. When the officer asked if she could come in for questioning, Mira agreed, though a deep unease settled in her chest. She wasn't the only one with a reason to want Lena gone. At the station, Detective Harris Monroe took over the questioning. He was calm but direct, his sharp eyes watching Mira closely as she recounted everything she knew. She told him about the affair, about the pregnancy, about the messages she had found. On Elliot's secret phone, she even admitted to confronting Lena, though she left out just how devastated and furious she had been in that moment. Detective Monroe listened without interrupting, jotting down notes as she spoke. When she finished, he leaned back in his chair and regarded her carefully. "Your husband," he said finally. "Where was he the night Lena disappeared?" Mira felt a chill creep up her spine. She had spent the last 2 days consumed by her own heartbreak, barely registering Elliot's movements. Had he been home that night? She couldn't even remember. She hated him for what he had done. But would he really be capable of something like this? She knew what the detective was thinking. The timing was too perfect. A secret affair, a pregnancy, a confrontation, and now a sudden disappearance. If Elliot had felt trapped, desperate to keep his secret from ruining his life, would he have done something to Lena? When she returned home, she found Elliot in the living room, sitting in the dark. He looked up as she walked in, his face drawn and pale. "The police called me," he said. "They think I had something to do with it." Mira studied him carefully. "Did you?" His eyes widened in horror. "You think I—" Mira, no, I would never. She wanted to believe him, but doubt gnawed at the edges of her mind. The next few days were a blur of unanswered questions. The police searched Lena's house and combed through surveillance footage from nearby businesses, hoping for a lead. Then, they found something that changed everything. A grainy security video from a street camera showed a figure standing outside Lena's house the night she disappeared. The image was blurry, the figure's face obscured by shadows. But one thing was clear. It wasn't Elliot. Someone else had been watching Lena. Someone the police hadn't even considered yet. And whoever they were, they might have been the last person to see her alive. The discovery of the security footage shifted the entire investigation. The police had been focusing on Elliot, convinced that his affair and Lena's pregnancy were enough motive for him to harm her. But now, there was undeniable proof that someone else had been near Lena's house the night she vanished. The figure in the footage wasn't clear, but one thing stood out: a tall, broad-shouldered man wearing a dark hoodie. He lingered outside Lena's house for several minutes before disappearing into the night. Detective Monroe intensified the search. If this man wasn't Elliot, then who was he? Did Lena know him? Was she afraid of him? Or worse, had she let him inside that night? Then, another strange piece of evidence surfaced. Inside Lena's apartment, police found a small black notebook tucked inside her nightstand. It contained detailed notes about various people in her life, including Elliot. At first, it seemed harmless, maybe a personal journal or a place where she wrote down her thoughts. But when detectives read through it, they realized it was something far more sinister. Lena had been keeping secrets. The pages contained information about Elliot's business dealings, things that he had never told Mira. There were mentions of offshore accounts, hidden transactions, and meetings with people whose names Mira didn't recognize. Most chilling of all, Lena had written cryptic notes beside some of the entries. "If he leaves, I tell. He thinks I don't know everything. He'll pay one way or another." Mira felt sick as she read the words. This wasn't just an affair. Lena had been using Elliot. She had planned to blackmail him, leveraging her pregnancy to get whatever she wanted. Had Elliot known? Had he been desperate enough to do something terrible? But then, something even more shocking emerged. The name Gavin Pearce appeared multiple times in the notebook. Mira had never heard of him before, but Detective Monroe seemed to recognize it instantly. Gavin Pearce was a known scam artist with a history of fraud and extortion. He had been arrested twice for conning people out of money, but had managed to avoid serious jail time. The last known address listed for him was in the same city. The police quickly discovered that Gavin and Lena had been in contact. Phone records showed multiple calls between them in the weeks leading up to her disappearance. But why? Had she been working with him? Or had she gotten tangled up in something she couldn't escape? Detective Monroe tracked down Gavin, bringing him in for questioning. At first, he denied knowing anything about Lena's disappearance. But under pressure, he admitted that she had approached him with a proposition. She had wanted his help with a scheme, a fake disappearance. Mira could hardly believe what she was hearing. According to Gavin, Lena had been planning to vanish for a short time, making it look as if Elliot had something to do with it. She had hoped the scandal would force him into a corner, leaving him no choice but to pay her off. Once she had enough money, she planned to reappear with a carefully crafted story. But something had gone wrong. Gavin insisted that he had backed out at the last minute, realizing that Lena was playing a dangerous game. He claimed he had nothing to do with what happened to her afterward. Mira wasn't sure whether to believe him, but one thing was clear: Lena had been lying to everyone. If her plan had gone wrong, had someone else silenced her to keep her from exposing the truth? Or had she unknowingly crossed the wrong person? And if Gavin was telling the truth, then where was Lena now? The truth unraveled like a slow-burning fire, revealing layer after layer of deception. The more the police dug into Lena's disappearance, the more twisted the story became. Gavin Pearce had claimed he backed out of Lena's scheme, but Detective Monroe wasn't convinced. Something didn't add up. If Lena had planned to vanish and force Elliot's hand, why had she left behind her car, her phone, and most of her belongings? It seemed too reckless, even for someone as manipulative as Lena. Then a breakthrough came. A security camera from a gas station nearly 5 miles from where Lena's car had been found captured a woman matching her description. She was alone, wearing a hoodie and sunglasses, and carrying a large duffel bag. She had paid in cash, kept her head down, and walked toward the road, where no buses or taxis were nearby. The footage was time-stamped just an hour after she had supposedly disappeared. Lena was alive. Mira felt her stomach churn. All this time she had been drowning in grief, fear, and betrayal, only to realize that Lena had been playing another game. But the question remained: where had she gone? And why had she staged this elaborate disappearance? The police followed every lead, but Lena had covered her tracks well. No credit card activity, no phone usage, no contact with anyone from her past. It was as if she had vanished into thin air. But then, another unexpected twist shook the case. A man walking his dog through a secluded park found a purse partially buried near a cluster of trees. Inside was Lena's driver's license, some cash, and a hotel keycard. The police traced it to a low-budget motel on the outskirts of town, where she had checked in under a false name. When detectives searched the room, Lena was nowhere to be found, but there were signs she had been there recently. The bed was unmade, the bathroom still damp from a shower, and on the desk sat a disposable phone. One missed call. From Elliot. Mira's blood ran cold. She confronted him that evening, demanding the truth. At first, he denied knowing anything, but she saw the panic in his eyes. When she pressed harder, his carefully controlled demeanor cracked. Elliot admitted that Lena had reached out to him the night she disappeared. She had called from an unknown number, telling him she was scared. She claimed that Gavin Pearce was threatening her, that he wanted more money to keep quiet about their arrangement. She begged Elliot for help, swearing that she hadn't meant for things to go this far. Elliot had refused. That was the last time he heard from her. But if Lena had been in danger, where was she now? And more importantly, was she running from someone, or had someone finally caught up with her? Then, the final, most chilling piece of evidence surfaced. Detectives recovered a second security video, this one from a traffic camera near the motel. It showed Lena walking toward a dark-colored SUV parked along the curb. The driver's face was obscured, but Lena hesitated before getting in. She looked nervous, glancing over her shoulder, before finally opening the door. The SUV pulled away and disappeared into the night. Lena hadn't left on her own. Someone had taken her. Mira stood in the police station, staring at the grainy footage, her heart pounding. Was Lena's plan spiraling out of control, or had she just become another victim of her own deception? No one knew for sure. Lena Vaughn was missing, and this time, it seemed, she wasn't coming back.